We're going to want to edit photos from time to time when we're working on videos. Maybe we want to make a special title screen. Maybe we have an image that we want to change in some way, make it transparent, and bringing that image into Photoshop is how we can do that. So today in Google Classroom, you're going to open up this hamburger mixed up file. You'll see the file name. Once you double click on it, you're going to download it from Google Classroom to your hard drive. You'll see that when we open it up, it's a PSD document. That means that it is a Photoshop document. And keeping this as a Photoshop document will preserve what's called layers. Now, what's awesome about Photoshop is the layers. What's also super frustrating about Photoshop is the layers. And so trying to understand how these layers work is going to be key to understanding how to edit your images. Now, first thing when you open up Photoshop, you're going to see down the left-hand side are a bunch of tools. When you hover over these tools, you're going to see what it does if you're not sure. This top tool is the Move tool. In parentheses, you see a V. That is a shortcut to get to the Move tool. We are also going to use the T tool today. This is the text tool. You're going to name your hamburger and add some special effects so it looks the way you want. You'll also notice that as you choose the different tools, the options along the very top of the screen will change. Those will allow you to change relative to what that tool can do. So for the text tool, for example, this is where you could come up here and select a different font. You can select if it's a regular, italic, bold, the size, if it's centered, left aligned, right aligned, or if you want to change the color, you could come in here and change your color. This is also, if you click on this little icon on the far right, you're going to see that this also gives you even more tools to edit and change text, such as underline, subscript, etc. And we can just click on this once again to close it. Okay, so first thing is we see this hamburger and it looks a little weird maybe. We've got onions, ketchup, and what we want to do is think about building this hamburger from the ground up. Okay, and that's where the layers kind of come into play. Over here on the right side, you're going to see that there are layers. These layers are where you just think of it like building the hamburger from the ground up. So my background, if I click on this and I hold and drag it to the bottom, it puts it at the bottom. Next, I'd want to put my bread bottom, so I'll click and hold, drag it to the bottom, and that's how we reorder these items. To get the Move tool, you need to check that if you're on the layer that you want to move, and make sure you have the right tool selected, which V is the shortcut. And then I click and hold and drag, and that's how I can move my images around. So I'm just going to kind of move these around so I can center them. Get my ketchup over here to the right. So if something's not behaving the way you expect, first of all, you're going to check what layer you're on, and next you're going to check on what tool you're using. You'll also notice when we're looking at the layers that there are some shortcuts down here at the bottom. This one here is if you want to trash a layer. Maybe you're working on a layer, it doesn't look the way you want. You can hit the trash and that will delete it. This is how you can add an empty new layer. So I just made a new layer with nothing on it. That's what you're going to want to do when you're ready to make your topping that you want to create. I'd say a lot of people like to create bacon. I personally don't care for bacon, but you do you and put whatever it is you want on your hamburger. So I'm going to get my paintbrush tool. And I'm going to double click on the colors and I'm going to do bacon just because so many people like bacon. Let me find a good kind of bacony color here. And then I can actually adjust the size of my brush real easily by using the bracket key on the keyboard. And I'm going to create some bacon. You'll see that the edge of this up here is where I can change this. This is where you can also adjust the size here. But I also am not crazy about, I want it to have a hard edge and not the soft edge. Okay, so I'm going to go back in here and do more of a hard edge. Now, the reason it looks like sometimes like people make a layer and they start drawing and they can't see anything, and that's because it's underneath something. So my layer's under the onions, so even though there's brown under the onions, it looks like you know, it's not painting, but it is. And then I'm going to click on that and I'm going to change my color to more of like a little bit of a reddy and create some stripes. because it seems like, I don't know. So I'm not going to grade you on whatever you create looks like. I'm just want to see that you created a brand new layer and you made something here representing what you are wanting to add to your hamburger. Now you'll see in the Google Classroom that I have a list of what I want you to do. It says your hamburger your way. You're going to have the bread top will be at the really top, then ketchup, then onions. The cheese layer, you're going to duplicate and rotate it, one of them, so I can see that you're able to rotate it. A hamburger, your salad layer, I want you to rename that lettuce. If you want to delete the salad layer because you don't like it, then you need to rename one of the other layers so I can see that you were able to rename it. Then the bread bottom and the background. You want to add a new layer, making your favorite topping that you want to add to your amazing, yummy hamburger. You're going to delete any toppings you don't like, and then you're going to add a layer that with the text tool and name your hamburger some name that fits your hamburger. So one thing you'll notice, sometimes it gets a little confusing what layer you're on. If you click the little eyeball next to the layer, you'll see that that turns that layer off. So if you've drawn on a layer and you can't figure out which layer it is, you can turn those off so you can see these layers a little bit better. Now my cheese and my bread bottom, if I scroll down here, they're at the very bottom hiding. Since the bread top will go on the very top, you might want to hide that while you're working so it's not hiding all your work. And I'm going to go grab my cheese, bring that up. My cheese layer, I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to say duplicate layer to make a copy. I'm just going to let it be cheese copy. And then when I have the cheese copy selected, I go Control T on my keyboard. I hover outside of my selection and I get a double-edged arrows. That means I'm going to be rotating it. So when I click and hold, it's going to rotate it. Now, if you grab one of these anchors, that can also kind of change the size, but I want to see that these points are not lined up, so I know you rotated it. Then you have to hit enter on your keyboard to save that change. It will not allow you to do anything else until you hit enter, and so sometimes people get stuck there because they don't hit enter and they don't understand why they can't change or select any other layers or tools. So hit enter after you transform. And then on the text tool, I often recommend on the text that you put it on the very, very top layer so that you can see it. A lot of times people do their text and it's hiding underneath something. So just come to the very top layer, get your text tool, click, hold, and drag, make a big, I want a nice, big, strong title. You'll see it automatically put some text in there for me. That's just like placeholder text. I'm going to name this the Captain. Maybe I should call it the Nemo Deluxe. And then I'm going to highlight all that text. I'm going to make it really big. Now it looks like 72 is the highest it can go, but you can actually type in a higher number here. So I'm going to do 720. Looks like it might be too big. I could make this a little larger. Still looks like it's too big. So maybe I'm going to do 100. And it depends on the font that you picked. I'm going to center my text. I'm going to make my text, what color should I make it? Let's just go with blue. And then I want you to add a special effect to this. So after you've created the title, it's real strong and you can see it on your text. Go to your layer, come down here at the bottom, FX. That stands for special effects. And I'm going to do a bevel and an emboss in here. You can play with these settings and make them more or less depending what look you want. And I'm going to say OK, and then I'm going to add another, I'm going to do a drop shadow. This is an auto drop shadow. Once again, you can make it more or less. Say OK. When you've added something and you're not sure what you like or don't like, you can also hit your eyeball to turn those off or on. And you can also double click them if you want to go back in and edit them. I could do numerous things at once. So I've got a stroke. If I wanted to do, let's say a stroke, but I wanted to say stroke it with say red, which is, okay, that's a little weird, but you know, you play around with it. So the idea here is maybe this doesn't look the way you want it to, but the idea is that you're just playing around and learning how to use the program. Once you have completed all the things you want to complete on your hamburger, make sure you go File, Save As, direct it to your Digital Arts F drive, your last name, and make sure you keep it as a Photoshop document. Okay, you're going to keep this as a Photoshop document so those layers are preserved. If you change this to a JPEG, JPEG, then that is going to flatten it down to one layer, and you will not be able to go into a JPEG and change anything, any of those layers. If you want to save your file as a transparent image, you'll notice that I deleted the background here. I actually just hit it by clicking on the eyeball next to the layer. And then you'll see the checkerboard background in the background. That means that that would be transparent if you saved this as a PNG. A PNG file has an alpha channel which lets you have transparency. So this is awesome if you want to put it on top of a video. And when you go to save it, you're just going to say File, Save As, and then select the type as a PNG down here at the bottom and click Save. Make sure you direct it, look at your pathway at the top, and make sure that it's directed to a location that you can find on your hard drive. And that's how you're going to save an image that you're working on as a ping for editing in your video.